Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am here to talk about Drew Dober versus Gian Silva. Gian Silva is stepping up in a big way here, taking this fight on short notice. He's going to be one of the only fighters to take fights on consecutive UFC cards, even if there is a week in between. I know there's some asshole out there going, Hoist Gracie fought on 5 consecutive UFC cards. Go fuck yourself. But I do think he's got balls of steel, and clearly he believes in himself, Gian Silva. He's not just taking on the most dangerous guy he's ever fought in Drew Dober. He's doing so after getting a win over the most dangerous guy he had previously ever fought, Charles Jourdain, and he didn't just beat him, he got it with a beautiful knockout. I'd be basking in the celebration, but he's looking to get right back in there. And he's also moving up in weight to take on Drew Dober. In addition to all that danger that Drew Dober brings, he's got to worry about those 10 extra pounds. He doesn't have to worry about it with the weight cut, but Drew Dober's got physicality on him in this matchup for sure. And that's part of the reason why I'm picking Drew Dober to win. Picking him to win because I trust his chin to survive what's coming back at him from Gian Silva. Gian Silva is a crusher of a finisher. I mean, what more proof do you need than that Charles Jourdain win? That uppercut from hell. But Dober, despite the recent knockout loss to Matt Frevola and being hurt a few times in his last few fights, his chin has remained pretty strong. You could argue that Frevola's stoppage was early, which, whatever, he didn't move around enough and the fight was stopped. But the only time he was ever legitimately knocked out was with ground and pound from Ramiro Hernandez. That's his first knockout loss way back when, over a decade ago. So Drew, despite having a lot of mileage, I'm really focusing on the chin here against Gian Silva because that's what I think the issue here is in this matchup. But I think he's healthy enough to survive against Gian Silva. And then Drew Dober with his skills on the feet and on the ground. I think Drew Dober is not a great grappler, but with his physicality, this is precisely the matchup where he's going to want to mix in the grappling, I should say. Because even though that's been the primary path to defeat, or to victory, I should say, against Drew Dober for all the guys that have beaten him, most of the guys, here in this matchup, that is not a weakness of his. I'd consider Drew the better grappler. I really don't know for sure. Gian Silva's not a fish out of water there, but he's definitely much more of a threat on the feet. Gian's got just 2 submission wins. They're both guillotines. I've seen both of them. A guillotine is nice to have in your back pocket, but it doesn't really speak to your overall grappling. And in his 2 losses, in one of them anyway, he was out grappled. That was the story of the loss. He ended up pulling the guy on top of him in the second round, I believe. And in the first round, he got taken down straight up. But in both rounds, rounds 1 and 2, he ended up being mounted, which speaks to a jiu-jitsu problem there. Not that it's a major problem, but it means he's not Charles Oliveira at the very least. But I will say in that fight, despite being out-grappled and uncomfortable and not where he wanted to be, he was the last man standing, and he took back round 3 and looked really good there. Wasn't able to completely take over the fight and get himself back into the realm of winning it, but it was a good look that he came back in round 3. And then his other loss was purely on the feet. It's another decision, but he lost on the feet to this sharp Muay Thai guy, and he showed he could take it on the chin in that matchup because, again, it was purely on the feet. The guy was in his face pressuring him, and Gian Silva handled the pressure well, gave back a lot, but in the end, it wasn't enough for him to win the decision. It was split, but that's because his opponent had a point deduction. So, whatever. But overall, despite the grappling weakness there that he showed in that one fight and being pressured on the feet in the other fight, I trust Gian Silva to survive. I think he's got good cardio, and I think his durability in the MMA sense has been there for him. He looks like a guy that won't fall apart completely. So I think in this matchup, when I'm picking Drew Dober to win, I'm picking him to win by decision for sure. I think Drew could get the better of Gian on the feet. And of course, there is a chance it's settled with level one physicality where Drew goes through him with a knockout. But I would favor Drew to win by decision, whether the fight was on the feet or on the ground. And I think it would really behoove him to rip this guy to the mat. He's done so in the past, Drew Dober. Every now and then, he goes that route and scores some valuable points. And here, against a guy who's shown to have that touch, again, he's coming off that beautiful win over Charles Jourdain. Drew Dober might want to take him out of his comfort zone and use that size advantage to maximum effect. Gian Silva, though, he's got a lot of great traits, danger being first and foremost, but he showed in those decision losses and against Kevin Vallejos, or however you pronounce his name, that he's not bad at all in the point fight. He's a guy who's proven to have excellent cardio, again, in both those losses and in the Vallejos fight. He had a hard time figuring him out early on, was being cleanly outstruck, and then completely took over. It's the one fight that he won in which he didn't get a finish, but he looked good by winning rounds 2 and 3. So I have a lot of faith in Gian Silva. I think he's got a lot going on as a fighter. But in this matchup, considering the circumstances, I'm going with Drew Dober. I think Dober's chin is really his biggest problem in this matchup, just considering Gian Silva's strengths. But I don't think it's enough of a problem to sway me from picking him and betting on him. And everything else altogether, I think Drew is overall the more proven, better fighter as of now. So I'm going with Drew Dober. I've bet on him, but I'll wait for the props. If decision is at long odds, because these guys aren't, especially Drew is a Mr. Decision guy, I think I'll throw a sprinkle on it because I consider that his primary path to victory, despite all the power that he's shown throughout his fucking career. But I will wait for the props as well because I think Gian Silva, his primary path to victory is knockout. Submission is not in the cards here. I mean, he's got the guillotine, and Efrain Escudero got Drew Dober out of there with a guillotine, but most of his submission losses are him being taken down, thoroughly dominated, and finished from the top position. And they're to a much better class of fighter, especially on the ground, than Gian Silva. And I think if Gian Silva was to win a decision, it would have to be where he really hurt Drew Dober multiple times. I don't think he's going to be winning the volume battle against Drew. And Drew won't be a sitting duck. He moves around very well. Drew Dober is an athlete in there. So Dober by decision is the pick. Dober as of now is the only bet. And I'll wait to see the props. Like, share, subscribe, all that horseshit, and check out my other videos.